Regardless of nationality and culture, most people in the world strive to be happy. Why is it that a small landlocked country in Asia has taken a totally different approach to development than most countries? Bhutan, a mountainous country situated in the eastern Himalayas with a modest population of less than 1 million inhabitants. A secluded nation that didn't open its doors to foreigners until the 1970s. Back then, King Jim Sangey Wangchuck traveled the world to learn how other countries measured growth and development. He saw that most countries focused on economic growth. However, he found that this approach was not necessarily sufficient when the goal is well-being of the people in a nation and sustainable development. This work became the foundation of Gross National Happiness, or GNH. The MadeToGrow team has traveled around the mystic kingdom of Bhutan and met with people from different walks of life in pursuit of the secret to happiness.
Traveling to Bhutan has been a dream of mine since I, in 2017, attended a leadership conference where I first heard about how this country are working holistically in their way of developing their nation. Because while most countries focus on the gross national product, Bhutan focuses on gross national happiness. And by this, they have a more holistic and sustainable approach to the development of this country. And this involves both material and non-material values, which creates happiness and life quality. So this approach was introduced by the fourth king of Bhutan, King Jigme Singye Wanchuk, in the 1970s. And I am now really excited to finally get to go there. And for my visit in Bhutan, I have a few exciting appointments with people who has been a great part of developing this country and also in the ongoing process for the coming years. So I hope you will get inspired and get some interesting learning from these conversations. The Goss National Happiness Center Bhutan is a non-profit civil society organization under the patronage of Her Royal Highness Ashi Kesang Choden Wanchuk. The center was established as a tribute to take forward the vision and philosophy of Gross National Happiness, or GNH, as introduced by His Majesty the 4th King Jigme Singye Wanchuk in the early 1970s. The Gross National Happiness Center Bhutan promotes the concept of GNH values nationally and internationally by facilitating transformational learning to achieve sustainable societal change. The GNH Center Bhutan is passionate about creating a better world with true happiness and sees itself as a cultivator of compassionate GNH values. Under the people-centric values of GNH, they work towards offering sustainable solutions for people and the planet. We had the pleasure of meeting the director of GNH Center Bhutan, Tsuki Tenzin, who presented their work. Prior to joining the center in 2015, Tsuki worked with the UNDP for over a decade under different portfolios, including operations and program administration. Tsuki is currently serving as the director and oversees the center's overall management in Bhutan, and she believes every Bhutanese has a responsibility in nurturing the values of Gross National Happiness Center.
As we were not allowed to shoot the conversation, we will, with approval, share some of the most relevant information provided by Tsuki Tenzin. From the meeting with Tsuki, we got to learn more about Gross National Happiness and the difference between GNP and GNH. Gross National Happiness, GNH, measures the material and non-material value. Gross National Product, or GNP, measures the monetary value of goods and services produced in an economy. GNH measures well-being and happiness For example, measures what conditions impact human and environmental well-being. GNP measures economic growth. For example, measure how many cars will be produced in a year, but not its environmental impact. GNH places importance on sustainable growth and progress. GNP does not differentiate between sustainable and unsustainable progress. GNH measures social and economic contributions of households and families, free time and leisure given the role of these factors in happiness. GNP does not measure acts of voluntarism, households, etc. GNH is measured or calculated every 5th year. GNP is measured or calculated every year. Gross National Happiness has 9 domains of measurement. Psychological well-being, material well-being or standard of living, good governance, health, education, community vitality, cultural diversity and resilience, balanced time use, ecological diversity. Based on the results, the government plans how to improve on the different areas, and through this they move slowly but steadily in their development of Bhutan and the well-being of their people. Since the introduction of GNH in the 1970s, the country has had a steady focus and accomplished great improvements. However, they still face many challenges they consciously work on improving. Their way of developing might inspire a wide range of nations, organizations, and individuals. GNH are also highly relevant for organizations and leaders, as such holistic approach to development are what provides the best results long-term for individuals, organizations, and society.
Please let me introduce you to Thakur Singh Powdyel. He is a Bhutanese politician and an educator by heart and by profession. He was the first democratically elected Minister of Education in Bhutan, and he has been central in fulfilling the Millennial Development Goals. He has a huge passion for institutional integrity, national self-respect, and the Gross National Happiness work. And this was the main reason for me getting the meeting with him, because I wanted to learn more from one of those who have been in the lead of introducing and implementing the Gross National Happiness work in Bhutan. He is an author of several books, and amongst them are books related to the Green School program, which Thakur is highly engaged in and talks about both nationally and outside Bhutan. So, hope you will enjoy this conversation. I have learned to know this man to be beautiful, with valuable perspectives, huge heart for people, the nation, the world, and the planet. I hope we will enjoy. So for me, touching upon elements on why you have been doing this kind of work, and I guess it comes a lot from your heart, and how much you would like to contribute to a better nation and the world maybe in general.
There may be many ways to do things, but I feel I have a rather unconventional, unique way to look at the world, to look at life, to look at the society and my country. And my relationship, with all these entities. Relationships are so very important because these are not relationships between people or amongst people, but also relationships between us, the human beings, and this big planet Earth, with the sea and the land, the sky, humans, animals, plants, birds, and all other living beings. I believe that we are just a small little microcosm of the big macrocosm of the universe. And this world is just not only our home, but we are co-inhabitants with so many other beings which also share this planet Earth with us. I believe that we co-inhabit this Earth, we co-breathe the air, co-drink the water, and co-share this Earth with so many other beings. And so it takes a bit of humility and mindfulness to conduct our own affairs. It would be wrong and I believe too arrogant to claim that we are the masters of the universe. We are not. And I think it is this attitude of superiority and arrogance that has brought about a lot of the problems that we see today around the world. That is why in Bhutan, His Majesty the Fourth King, Ave Sangay Rinche, who we call the King of Destiny, saw that simply following that reductionistic, very narrow and limited way to look at development was not going to be adequate for Bhutan. So he articulated a new vision for development that he called Goss National Happiness. It's much more broader based. It takes into account all those non-human entities that constitute this universe that we all share. So, and as far as education itself is concerned, education is all about finding relationships, making meaning. How do you make meaning with literature? Make meaning with the sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, humanities, social studies, music, sports, games, IT. If we are able to make relationships and seek meaning out of these different fields of investigation, I think our approach to and learning of these different fields is going to be extremely limited. We will go so far but no further. That's why I think my link with my own country, my own field of interest, and thereby also my relationship with the world beyond are founded on this notion of humility and respect and mutual relationship between us, the human beings, and planet Earth and everything around us. I think we're going to find greater fulfillment, greater meaning, and greater reward, not in the material sense, but in the emotional, psychological, and the spiritual sense. So that's why I think we human beings have gone too far to claim what doesn't belong to us. And when I look around and see these very ambitious countries with aggressive leaders, threat to humanity, because they feel that they have to control everybody and that everybody has to submit to them. But in the 21st century, to have to live a life that's so aggressive and thoughtless would actually be destructive. And that's why there's so much of problem in the world. And we are supposed to be the most highly evolved of all beings, human beings. That's why we call Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens, thinking beings. But do we think enough, feel enough, see enough, hear enough? And I think that ability or inability makes all the difference.
So in countries, some leaders tend to just want to have more money, more power, and this greed just continues rather than having a focus on that everything is connected, we are all human beings, and we all need to take care of this planet and the resources that we have. So, gross national happiness is, for me, at least for me, this hope of how we maybe could move forward in a much more constructive way for all of us, because only measuring gross national product, like the material development, the financial development, tends to take us too far in a direction which is self-destructive for both the human beings and the planet maybe also in many ways.
I think so. You know, Charles Darwin talked about the survival of the fittest, but his sense of the fittest was basically physical survival, self-preservation, basically in a very competitive, almost a kind of fighting mode all the time. And the stronger that you are, the greater the chances for you to survive and move forward. So the survival of the fittest, I think today we are using this law of the jungle, the survival of the fittest, on the human plane, and that is wrong. And I think it is this misapplication of that biological law of the survival of the fittest that ignores other important levels of fitness. So it is not only physically fit or economically fit who have a right to succeed in life. There are also people who may not be physically fit or economically fit, but they will be extremely fit in the moral sense, in the ethical sense, in the spiritual sense, in the cultural sense, in the human sense, in the more genuine, authentic sense. So today we should look at not only the survival of the fittest in the old school thought, old school way, but fitness in so many other dimensions. But we should also explore the imperative of ethical fitness. So the people who succeed, do they succeed ethically, morally? Do they succeed in an upright way? Or do they succeed through a corrupt, suspicious and crooked ways? So some people are economically fit, economically very fit, but does that economic fitness also necessarily relate to moral, ethical fitness? What has been the road that they followed to get to that fitness? That's why in my little book that you may have read, I've developed what I call the triangle of parliamentary integrity. The triangle of parliamentary integrity. But this triangle can be applied to any sphere of life. Individual life, organizational life, social, national life, it can be applied everywhere. So that's why it's a question of means and ends. To achieve a certain end, what means do you apply? If the end is noble, the means to achieve that end must be noble as well. You cannot say that my end is very noble, my goal is noble, so I can use any means to get to that end. It doesn't go like that. So if the end is noble, the means to get to that end also ought to be noble. That's why in the architecture called Goss National Happiness, we believe that we have to moderate our wants. It is a question of needs and wants, the tension between needs and wants. We don't need everything that we want. Yes. But as long as our basic needs or our human needs are fulfilled, we should be content. We make resources scarce because some people have the lion's share and so many others don't have the basic needs fulfilled. That's why in this unequal world, this unfair world, unjust world. There's a crying need to find alternatives. And Goss National Happiness is an alternative path. We want our nations to succeed. We want our societies to succeed. Our institutions, organizations to succeed. But who are the leaders? Are the leaders able to make these distinctions? Do they have the strength of character to say, this is right and this is wrong? This is good and this is bad. This is true and this is false. This ability gives power to individuals. We need leaders who can make these distinctions. Otherwise, you see every now and then great organizations, great companies collapse overnight. Why does it happen? It happens because the people sitting at the top are not able to make this distinction. They feel that if they succeed, by whatever means, by hook or by crook, that is fitness. That's being successful. But you know what? When these institutions, these companies, organizations collapse, how many people are affected by it? But it is because that one person who makes all the important decisions is not able to make these very fine distinctions. That's why I think concept, a vision like Goss National Happiness is a kind of a reminder to us that humans are the species who live our lives more like human beings, in harmony with nature, in harmony with so many other beings that also inhabit this earth, and call it a common whole.
And also according to the human nature. Because is it really competition which is human nature, or is it collaboration? Is the world a place of lack and you have to fight for the resources, or is it actually abundance? And as you say, because the constant need and desire to having more and more and earn more money, we tend to lose the focus on the values and the moral of actually sharing and have a long-term focus on development.
Yeah, precisely, yes. That inability, I was talking about the ability, but that inability to make those distinctions makes all the difference. See?
And like when you define success, in most countries, at least in the Western society, like Norway, the primary focus and goal is to earn money to make the owner happy. So, and focusing and combining more the purpose of the organization. Why do we actually exist to begin with? Which kind of value are we supposed to create? What was the original idea to start this company to begin with?
Yeah.
And so many leaders lose track of those more purpose-based aspects because they are measured all the time, their success based on how much money they can actually make. Yeah. So that is why I find this the Goss National Happiness so valuable, not only on a nation perspective, but also in organizational levels. How do we go from where we are? Like Bhutan, you have come a long way in your development. For countries like Norway and other countries where we have come to maybe a different point in materialism, how should we apply such framework? Because most people do not want to go back, living in simpler homes, having less. For some reason, maybe our brains like to constantly be fed with more and more of everything. How can we go about?
I think countries like Norway are particularly well suited, well positioned to bring the change, because you have already achieved the basic minimum for everybody. And I think there is a very strong foundation on which to make the change for the society, for the country. I think it's time to say we have come so far, and where do we go from here? Where do we find ourselves 5 years down the line, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the line? What is our North Star? And if they have no vision of the future, how will they do the planning? Their planning will be short-sighted. it will be limited, it will be time bound. But nations do not have that kind of a 5-year cycle or a 10-year cycle. For nations it is eternity, it's all time. So that's why it's important for leaders worth their salt to be able to think big, feel big, see big and beyond big. Otherwise how would they have the moral authority, the moral confidence to say that they're leading the people? So that's why I think in the first place I feel that it's important for nations to identify their North Star. Just as indeed for people, individuals, men, women, children, it's important to have our own dreams. Without dreams, a poet says, life is like a broken winged bird that cannot fly. So I think just as we need a dream, a goal, a destination to guide us in our life, to reach the point that we want to get to, so also nations and societies ought to have a North Star. Otherwise, what is the guarantee that this level of prosperity, this level of abundance is always going to be there? That's why I think it is important to exercise some level of humility, some level of responsibility and mindfulness, and see where do we stand in relation to the others, in relation to the neighbors, in relation to the world, in relation to the planet. Where do we stand? Is our lifestyle sustainable? Is it sustainable? We have everything, but others do not have it. That kind of disparity, this kind of inequity is not sustainable. That's why you see so many migrants in Europe. Yes, it is simply a result of inequity, a result of that unsustainable lifestyle, in this unfair world. But I'm very happy also to see that a lot of leaders, at this time, are becoming more reflective and try to see as to whether this current system of production and consumption and industry-based, corporation-based lifestyle is good for people, for societies, and for nations. I think there are some thinking beings around, and even some organizations, some companies are doing very well. And I can give you at least one example of a company in Vietnam. It's called Vitis, V-I-T-I-S, Vitis. It's a shoemaking factory. But this shoemaking factory is not very old, but it has incorporated ideas of Goss National Happiness into its operation.
Oh, wow.
And they've recorded that in the past couple of years, their productivity has gone up. Their profit, I don't like to say profit, but the benefits that accrue to the organization and to the people, and thereby to the society, has also got. And I think deep inside, there's a longing. There's a longing in most people around the world, not only in Bhutan and in Asia, but also in the West. When we meet people and get into a conversation, they share this feeling of void, the feeling of emptiness. So I think there is a realization that the current model of development of progress is not sustainable, and we have to find ways. I think a time will come. I don't know when, but the world will come around. It has to. I think it is going through a cycle that is unsustainable, not based on equity or justice. The fundamental order of nature is balance. And I think human beings in the long run may be able to come around and learn from this universal order of balance, the universal order of sustainability. But now sustainability is not enough. What do we sustain? If we sustain this unfair, unjust, inequitable existing order, we are going to make any advance. There's going to be no change. it will be a perpetuation of this unfair order. If we talk about sustainability alone, see, I think we have to talk about regeneration.
Yes.
Regeneration of what we have lost. Reclaiming of what we've lost. So, regenerating our lost regenerating our lost relationships, regenerating our days with everything around us. I think if nature is able to regenerate, if the soil is able to regenerate, human beings will be able to regenerate as well. And I think there will be a new civilization. I'm really hoping for that new civilization.
So how do you hope the future looks based on those principles? Because I think many in the West who have a lot, they are afraid to lose what they have and their life standard, because other people in the world would like to have a better life standard, and that is not enough to go around, so we can sustain our way of living. So how, what is your aspirations for the future where we have this balance?
Oh, of course, it may sound like a pious thinking, like an idealistic thinking, but if human beings are not idealistic, who are we after all? Yes. If our life is to be exhausted, bound to this cycle of production and consumption, like a machine, we are hardly human beings. So I feel that this capacity to think, the capacity to dream, the capacity to hope and to build and to imagine, this capacity should manifest itself in making the world a better place. Otherwise, how are we different from any other beings or animals? What makes us human? Yes.
And you talked about the difference between the reasonable man and the unreasonable man.
That's true.
The reasonable man are those who follow the rules, basically. They fit in. They do what is expected. And maybe we need some more of those unreasonable people can make those revolutions and make changes. So invite more people to dare to think differently and to dream about how we should evolve and how our future could live.
I was quoting George Bernashaw, who said that there are two kinds of people in the world. One kind is the reasonable people, the reasonable kind, and the other is the unreasonable kind or the unreasonable category. He defines who the reasonable people are, and he said that the reasonable people are those who conform, who adhere to the norm, the mainstream, the establishment, the normal order of the universe or the society. And the unreasonable ones are those who try to make the society conform to their ideas, to their vision, to their imagination of the world. So the reasonable ones, they cooperate with the society. The unreasonable ones want to adapt the society to themselves. So, and he said that all progress in the world depends upon this unreasonable category. They think more. They see what others don't see. They feel what others don't feel. And they hear what others don't hear. So it will be the more seeing, more hearing, and more feeling people who can make a difference. Imagine the world without the Buddha. Imagine the world without Christ. Imagine the world without Krishna or Shiva or Brahma. Imagine the world without Prophet. Imagine the world without Mother Teresa, without Mahatma Gandhi, without Shakespeare, without all these great thinkers and philosophers and believers, the creators, the inventors, the discoverers, these were the unreasonable people. Not everybody would be able to get to that level of enlightenment, but I think in our own ways, at our own level, we can also think as to whether it is right to follow the flock, follow the beaten path, or whether it is not the correct thing to pause a while, take a step back, reflect, and see what is the right way to go. At the end of the day, I find this particular virtue of integrity the most defining of all the traits, integrity, because it is this gap between what people profess and what they practice that makes a difference. And as a teacher, I am not perfect. I am far from perfect. But I would like to believe that I try to approximate my role to its soul. I believe that every role has a soul. Every role has a soul. But over time, what happens is that we are very conscious of the role, but forget its soul. As by role, I may be a teacher. By role, I may be a doctor or an engineer or a parliamentarian, a diplomat, a builder, a carpenter, a mason. I could be a driver. But every role comes from somewhere, and that somewhere is the soul of that role. This role has an origin. It is a soul from where it is born. That a role has to keep itself faithful to that soul. It has to keep returning to the soul for nourishment, for revitalization, to remain relevant, to remain meaningful and worthwhile. Otherwise, my role, divorced from its soul, will diminish. It will disappear over time. It will be meaningless. So that's why, as a teacher, I have to keep remembering all the time, why did I become a teacher? What made me a teacher? What was that moment of truth? And I think leaders all over must try to seek or rediscover the soul of their own. And I think it's a very important task. Many people don't know that their role has a soul. They feel that, oh, my role, I'm so and so, I'm the manager, I'm the chief, I'm the head. So we become arrogant, we become proud. And this arrogance, this pride, this selfishness reduces that role. And it doesn't look to the soul for nourishment, for guidance, for advice, for renewals. So this is important for me.
And I think we share the value of the purpose, because for me, when you talk about the soul and why you go into a role. For me, it's so much about the value in finding maybe a life purpose, because for me, my purpose is to contribute to develop human potential. And I can bring that purpose into the role as a mom, and how I bring up my kids, how I talk with my kids in my everyday life. I can bring it into my role as a founder and a leader in my company. I can bring it into relationships in other arenas in life. So I always can remember that my purpose is to do what I can to help people develop their potential.
The closer the role is to the soul, the stronger it is, the more authentic it is, the more purposeful it is. But the more distant the role is from its soul, the weaker, the more impoverished, and the more ineffective the role becomes. That's why the idea is to find as close a harmony between role and soul. Then readers become effective, they become honest, and they become mindful in their roles. I remember a visit to a school. I used to travel across the country very regularly. I won't travel outside the country all that much, but I thought it was important for me to travel within the country, see my students, my teachers, and meet the parents and see as to how they were living. See. So that sitting in Mumbai, I didn't have to imagine what is happening in faraway villages. So I could see what the situation was like. So in one of my visits, I went to a school and they invited me to address the morning assembly. In Bhutan, our schools begin with the morning assembly. We sing our national anthem. All the children are lined up outside on the courtyard. We sing the national assembly. We have the morning assembly. We sing our national anthem, and there are some speeches by teachers, by the headmaster, principal, and by students at times. And if there's a visitor, they ask the visitor to also address the assembly. So in one of those visits, I was invited to talk to the students, and I did that. And I had some time left after my little talk, and I told the students, I can't get to visit your school regularly, but when I'm here, if you have some questions, I'll be happy to respond to those. But in Bhutan, our children are very shy and reserved, especially if there's a visitor or if there's a new person. So I prodded them to ask some questions. And at long last, a class 5 child stepped out of her line and asked me the most beautiful question I have ever heard in my life so far. Till then and since, till now, she asked me, what does a minister do? What does a minister do? And everybody was looking at me. They thought that I was finished. That I would have no answer, more that. Because normally they would have expected an answer, something to this effect. A minister sits in the office, signs papers, gives orders, attends meetings, and goes for parties. Perhaps this is the normal response that most would get. So everybody is looking at me, thinking what kind of response I would have to this question, what does a minister do? But fortunately for me, I remembered the old Latin root of the word minister. And minister comes from Latin, where it is ministrare. Ministrare. And ministrare is to serve. Ministrare is to serve. So I told the child, as a minister, my job is to serve you, the students of this country. My job is to serve my fellow teachers of this country. My job is to serve my fellow citizens. My job is to serve my king and my country. Then there was a sigh of relief. Everybody relaxed. And they looked quite happy, and I felt happy as well. And this is what exactly it is. As a minister, I have to know why I'm there, see. If I'm proud and, very inflated in my ego, thinking that I'm a minister, I can order people around, do what I want, that would reduce my role, you see. That would be moving away from the soul of my role, you see. So as a minister, my primary job is to serve. I'm a servant. I'm a servant. I'm a servant of the children. I'm a servant of the teachers. I'm a servant of my fellow citizens. I'm a servant of the king and the country. If I don't position myself, if I don't serve, then my role becomes reduced. It becomes very limited. It becomes irrelevant. I don't have to be sitting there on the minister's chair if I'm not able to serve. So that is my meaning of the relationship between role and soul. And I believe that it is important for the parliamentarians, members of parliament, to ask, what is the relationship between their role and the soul of their role? I want the ministers to ask, what is the relationship between their role and the soul of their role? I want parents to ask that. I want farmers to ask that. Business people to ask that. Teachers and doctors and engineers, builders to ask that. Role and soul. And that makes all the difference.
And I see a shift from my 25 years within leadership and HR positions and working with development in organizations, from much more focus on just having people come to work and do a great job and push them and make the best results, to now it's a shift into more purpose-oriented perspective. I think it comes more alongside with the wellness trend. Like, we tend to understand better now that we are humans, we need to have some balance, we need to feel some kind of motivation, and that we have good relationship, we are taken care of at work, the trust is important. But still we have a really, really high level of, maybe you call it selfishness, like what's in it for me.
Yeah.
So I think people come from the same place of longing. That's why we have the void in so many countries in our society.
Yeah.
So how can individuals, from your perspectives, and leaders go about to help people merge and find the soul on the road? Because I think that would be a huge relief also on the individual level.
Yeah. I think you have to ask why the people are there. I feel that individuals are there in an organization not because they have an employment, that they have a job to be there, and that they get a salary at the end of the month. I think that's the most minimal, this is the basic minimum reason to be there. There ought to be a bigger goal, and I think it will be important to ask, why the people are there. And wherever I have been, whichever institution I have served in the first place, I have to discover the vision of the founder. Why did the founder set up that institution? What is the vision? What is the dream? There's something like the soul. But over time, that vision, that dream starts disappearing. It starts disappearing. People forget that. Why were the institution set up in the first place? So I think as a nation builder, you have to also think about what the goal of the nation, where does it want to go, and how do you engage yourself? How do you make your role serve that soul of the goal?
So there's so many I meet say that my job, or many companies around, there is a possibility to feel in the purpose. It's just to have a job because I cannot have anything better. So many say it's too many jobs around in the world which can never be purposeful. What would be your answer to people?
No, I think they haven't thought enough. They haven't thought enough. If they are there only for a job and for employment, I think you should tell them that they're on a journey. They're on a journey. This is the first step. This is the first step. And the journey has just begun. And what kind of journey will it be? So I think we have to expect more.
Yeah.
We have to desire more. We have to hope for more, and support people to move in the direction of that higher goal.
And maybe also dare to step out of the comfort zone and maybe find a different job. Because if you work in a company or an organization who is not focusing on soul and purpose, because some jobs could be purposeful, but the management is not focusing on those aspects. It's all about money and having people come to job and do their job and have their salary at the minimum, and it's like just a transaction, basically. So then encourage people to actually move on, find a different job and a different company to work for, you have those values incorporated.
It's very important. I was in a school just a couple of days ago in Dhaka, and after I finished my little talk with the students in the big hall that they have, all these, as I was moving out of the stage, these children, they surged forward. They came and surrounded me, and they wanted to shake hands with me, and they wanted me to sign on their notebooks, and some had little pieces of paper for me to sign on. Sometimes this small piece of paper, they just torn it up from their friend's notebook. Small piece of paper for me to sign on. And some just they bared their arm for me to sign. Some opened their arms, so I had to sign on their arms, or on their palms, as if they will never wash their hands, so. But it was such a powerful and moving scene. And when the people are going away, because the teachers had to come and simply push the students away because they were not going away. And at the end, about three boys stayed back. And there was one boy, he was quite emotional. He said, I had never thought of a North Star in my life. But now I have started looking for one. See? So I'm hopeful, and as a teacher, as an educator, I have to be hopeful. I'm hopeful. See? The world may not be perfect, but it is still a good world. Life may not be perfect, but life is still beautiful. And it's still worth preserving, and worth celebrating, and worth honoring.
I think this is a beautiful conversation, and for me, having one of your books, you are an author in addition to having done a great job as an education minister in Bhutan, and you have been educating around in this country and outside the country. You have listening to your words is really, really impactful on me, and I think so many others.
Yes, you're very kind.
So I look forward to that, and I hope I will manage to have you over to Norway. I think we need to implement some of the
organized things and
the great work that we have done. So thank you so much for having us again. It's been a pleasure to see you again.
So good to see you too.
Please let me introduce you to Ave Sangay Rinche, or Farmer Sangey, which also is his name. He is a thought disruptor, a Goss National Happiness enthusiast, an entrepreneur, and an experimental farmer. And he has won several awards for his work in Bhutan and also outside Bhutan. His purpose is to be a pathfinder to transform self, society, and economy through logics of farming. And these days, he is about to embark on an exciting new project with the government in Bhutan to take farming to the next level and hopefully inspire younger people of Bhutan to stay within farming and agricultural life. So I hope you will enjoy the conversation with this exciting man. You really have a cool profile, and
Thank you.
Yours. So maybe just start with your story. Like, what is your journey with your own words? Like, where did it all start? You come from Bhutan, right? You grew up here. So, but please share from your life.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
My real name is Sangey Rinche, but people now used to call me Farmer Sangey, and it's more like my alter ego that everybody knows me by my name, which got popular on social media, called Farmer Sangey. And in the initial year of my life, I was a civil servant working for Ministry of Agriculture and Forest to help facilitate and support farmers on the ground. But after 4 brief years working for the government, I had a near-death experience, NDE experience of my life in 2009.
You had a near-death experience?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had an auto car accident, and then I was bedridden for next 1 year. And within that period of time, I learned that I went through a existentialist crisis. I was actively pursuing to understand my purpose and meaning of life. And that's where after a year when I was able to walk on my foot, I went to my office, resigned, and I left home to live my life as a simple farmer. That's the beginning of my story. Wow. And that was a long time back though. For the last 13, 14 years, I was engaging in the sector of food and farming as a producer, as a farmer, as value addition. I worked in different value chains of different crops, and then I came to learn that the traditional way of farming is no more attractive, no more sexy for young people to come and engage and continue the legacy. And therefore, I have come to learn that the purpose of my life is to help our dear fellow farmers from the traditional farmers transition into something more new generation, something that will take their legacy up into the future. And so that's my story. I've been doing a lot of things, and especially for last 5-6 years, my journey has been more into discovering the massive transformative purpose that I could offer to the world. Because I learned that in the past, after I resigned from my job and went back to village to live as a farmer, growing food has become a very passionate subject for me. And through the farming, I discovered what life is for me, or what is my existence. There are many questions that I did not find answer for my life, but then when I work on the field, when I watch caterpillars, when I watch birds, and the whole natural cycle of season, many of my mundane questions dissolved, and I began to enjoy more and more. So that's my brief story.
Well, so your educational background is within agriculture.
Yes.
And you started your career out in the government position, and then you had this car accident which hospitalized you for a year. Yeah. And I guess when you have to stay in bed for a year, hoping to recover fully, you get some time to think those thoughts, right? And maybe that's even a good thing, because I often say, what about if the biggest problems or challenges we face are the biggest gifts from universe? Even though no one would like to end up in a car accident and be hospitalized, but it was still a transformational change for you.
Yes.
So what were the reasons you were searching for a deeper purpose to begin with when you were lying there trying to recover?
So initially, when I had my accident, I was 26, 27 years old. And until then, my life was very normal. I am expected to go to have job, get married, have a family, and live whatever the trajectory called the normal human life. I'm supposed to follow that. And that was perfect for me because I was able to do it. There wasn't much crisis. I did not really have to ask existentialist questions, but there were enough distractions on my path that I get engaged all the time. But when I had a near-death experience, there was one question that came to my mind consistently. Am I dying? Did I live enough? Did I mean matter? Did I matter to the world? And then later, the questions were much simpler. What's life? Why am I even here? Why do I really begin? So those small questions gave me chance to take a different path to find the answer, I think.
And you said something that caught my attention also from, you said you had enough distractions all the time to continue the life you had with a good job and doing the stuff the society and I guess also family and people around you expected you to do, but then been forced to have these shifts.
I learned that I did not have a purpose in my life.
Yeah.
So. I lived my life because the society asked me to do, my family asked me to do. There were never even one major events in my life that I did it for myself, because I truly want to do from the deeper part of myself. most things I was doing because more like I was playing my role as a son, as a citizen of a country, as an employee of an office. But there's no inner soul that is finding the sort of contentment and the satisfaction from living that life. I learned when I was sleeping there for almost a year. That was my realization that I had to go. If I ever will live again, I need to go and find my purpose and then find my meaning of life, so that I can find the contentment of being alive again.
So for you finding or having this opportunity to ask those questions, how did it come to you? Like, how did you find it?
So my first inquiry was, I was really curious about what this life is. Is there anything more to this life than I was living before? And that came to me as an inquiry where I launched myself on a self-discovery, because I read a lot of things, I watched a lot of movies, I was a science student, I understand a bit of science, and none of that knowledge that point in time gave me adequate answer to calm myself down. The only thing is that I had to come out of my bed, I had to travel the world, I had to free myself to really discover what other people are asking or finding answer for the similar question. But more than that, I think I was also, there's a part in me which was very sincere. I feel that there is something waiting for me to come and grasp it, Like there's a sense of urgency in me. There's so much yearning of my soul, like I need to go out and just move, so that I can arrive somewhere. That sense was also very strong in me. So combination of all of that did not really give me a sort of a negative anxiety or a crisis, but rather I was so curious, and there is something that's calling for me to come and embrace it, So that's why after a year I resigned and I went back home and settled with my family, my family. And then I was, working with a lot of other people around the country, just more in the sense of I had no goal of any in the objective world. I was not even doing any business, or I had no goals or objective to achieve in a period of time, but I was mostly curious to talk to people and go learn what people are doing, and so it was very much a part of the self-discovery for me. Yeah. And the answer doesn't come that easy though. Over a time, instead of me finding the answer, my questions dissolved, and there's more of understanding, there's more of inner knowing, instead of like waiting for the right answer. Most of these questions just dissolved, and then led to me much more peaceful.
So, but you said you were traveling a lot.
Yeah.
In Bhutan or also outside?
I traveled to a lot of places. I was very fortunate enough for my second life, because when I learned that I will now relive my second life, I decided to live it a little bit different. So there were points where I was experimenting a lot with my life, like with my diet, with my thoughts, with my sleep pattern, with my emotions. In 2015, I went to experience being a Buddhist monk for a month. I shaved my hair, I was wearing a red robe, I was sleeping with them in a very renowned institute somewhere here in the capital. And when I returned back after the end of the month, I told myself that I will take with me something to the world. And that was that in a Buddhist psychology or a Buddhist philosophy, anger, emotion management is something very important. They say there is no violence like anger. It can be violent to you, to people around, and it can bring a lot of destruction. It also says that there is no suffering than tolerance. Like tolerance is a lot of pain and suffering, and anger is a lot, like it can cause a lot of violence. So that's all about wisdoms I encountered, and I decided that I will try to live for the rest of my life without encountering anger, or to be mindfully watching myself of negative emotions. And so that happened a long time back. So that gave me a lot of experiences in my life, because it changed my perception, it changed the horizon of my view, it also changed the energy in my body. I could experience more embodied awareness rather than just sometimes identifying with the mind or sometimes identifying with the body. I get more and more of a sense of self over time. Yeah.
At least in our society, when you start, if you were talking like this to many people in maybe say Norway or Europe or some countries, they would say this is like alternative health or like because many are so occupied into the new society model of like the way we work and what is actually science, what is actually good medicine and what is like good health. So for me, trying to be part of promoting the natural health, like how can we have both physical and mental health? The body is extremely capable of creating good health or recreating or keeping good health if it gets the proper conditions for it. So when you say meditate, stay in touch with nature, listen to hours for a river and just go inside, like all of this will bring better health.
Yes.
We also have a lot of research now, like mindfulness research. So we see also in my culture that people are opening up to those practices, yes. But still, many call it alternative. And many are still really skeptical. Do you come from a culture where you have the same skepticism? Or is it a different culture? So meditation, mindfulness, going inside, is more like a natural way of living in Bhutan.
Yes. In our country is unique and we're able to preserve all of this alternative, so-called alternative belief. In some part of the community, they are mainstream beliefs. Our people believe in nature, our people believe in the higher existence, our people believe in living with the positive human goodness, basic human goodness. So all this were there, including consulting the shamans to engaging in everyday ritual of worshipping nature, to praying, like visualizing. So all these are very much part of our society. And this is because of the concept of Goss National Happiness. Yeah, it allowed us to evolve on our ancestral background, foundation, and consistently evolve into the future with the understanding of science and technology. Now we begin to see that gene is much more relevant even in future than now.
Yeah.
We see that, yeah. Most things I learned from outside was that world has everything that we have, but we have something that the rest of the world lost. It's like our connection to people, like you were saying that time, people are very friendly, open, and they're in harmony with nature.
Yeah, so you see that much of the world have lost that connection. So what took place? Why did we lose it, do you think? Is it because we had this...
It's a worldview. The Western worldview consistently chasing the objective world, the natural world.
Yeah, natural.
Has compromised a lot of the way of life.
Yeah, and so much about financial drive, materialism.
One-sided.
Yes, so we keep out of balance because we are measured both in the society or nation in general, but also in the organizations we work. And also, like, when you compare yourself with neighbors, like many people do in a way or another, like who has the nicest car or
yeah.
So
that's the natural one.
So the measuring stick on success or how great your life is, it is measured by how nice car or house you have. But so many people live not happy lives. They don't live fulfilled lives.
The attention is outside.
Yeah.
Not the inside.
Yeah. So we're back to your expertise and why you have all these awards. So because we haven't really touched upon what you're actually doing, because you say you want to bring the legacy of farming in Bhutan to the next level. So both to pay respect for the traditional way of farming, but also to see maybe how young people and how you can preserve this part of your culture. So what is actually the thing you are doing?
So for now, I call myself the innovation organizer at the farm.
Innovation organizer at the
Yeah,
farm.
yeah.
So you go into farm and look for a way to improve or be innovative.
Yeah. So the project I'm working on is called the Happy Hill Farm. That's my small family farm, which we have incorporated with the government. We have a license.
You call it
Hill Farm.
Happy Hill Farm.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
And our for now our goal, our tagline is reimagining future of smallholding family farms for 21st century. Because in my last 10 years itself, I learned that almost 80-90% of the smallholding farmers just vanish in the world. On corporate world, in the market, like everything just disappeared. And for me as a farmer, agriculture is more like a mother of all culture. The way we eat, the way we think, the way we connect to nature, the way we dream things. So for us as an agrarian society, agriculture, the farm food and farming remains more like a mother of lot of culture. Everything evolves around that. And that's why it's so important to retain the family value system, the social value system, how family-centered, human-centered farms that are very resilient, working in harmony with the community forest, the ecology around. So all these ancestral values were very much intact there. And for me now to keep and maintain all the good parts about the traditional farms, small farms, and then add something more futuristic of technology, AI, augmented reality to make it more sexy and trendy for young people to come back and experience life as a farmer, because on the farming happens to be an existentialist. It provides a lot of existentialist meaning and purpose to people. Some people, they would say, in the city there are many people who go through neurosis because they do not have the right answer for their questions. But in the village, on a farm, everyone is occupied, meaningfully, engaged on the farm, and they have less of this question because every day they are into the flow of nature. Every day they see the changes happening, and they don't tend to ask what is life, because life always happens for them, right? But whenever we are in the city, when we have a lot of money or resources or time, then we try to go on one-sidedness, we lose the balance, and then when we are separate from nature or from our inner who we are, then those kind of existentialist neurotic questions come into play. And so my job right now is to make my small family farm, traditional farm, into smart farm for future, the future of the farms. And that will be my next part of the journey, which I will take it for the rest of my life.
Wow.
That's the purpose and that's the meaning of my life.
So you can even go into smaller farms, and how can they afford it? Like, how can they improve their way of farming and using all this technology? Because that might be quite expensive for maybe farmers who might not have that much money, because they live from what they produce. They go to the local market and they can sell some of their food, and they can buy something from a neighboring farm or whatever. So many don't have all that much money to buy. So how do they get support from the government, or how does this work, this program?
So in our country, our agriculture sector is still a social sector which have a lot of interest for the government, development partners and agencies they want to take part in upliftment of the 60 to 70% of the people in the country who are farmers. And they were the last organized sector in our society.
So you said 60 to 70% are farmers in this country.
The whole population are farmers here.
Yeah. And that's amazing, because that number might be similar to what we had in Norway, say 40 years ago or whatever. I don't have the numbers, I'll look them up. But like as you said, small farmers are wiped out because they cannot compete.
They are not sustainable anymore.
No, because producing quality food is expensive. And then you have these big farms from other countries, maybe even, who can be more effective at producing stuff, and they put pesticides and all this chemical stuff in the ground. Price goes down. So we have to touch on how can we actually. Is it even possible to find a way to reverse that? Because those powers are really, really strong.
Yeah. So our country is only unique in the sense agriculture being holds space for a lot of culture, livelihood, which is more like a living library. The GNH the philosophy, the country's policy really supports and safeguards our culture, including agriculture. We have a national dream of converting the whole country's agriculture into organic long-term back. There were many efforts going on.
Yeah, you even have a
Vision to 20.
yeah, you are not allowed to use any chemical stuff in farming in this country, right? Yeah.
So all the conditions so far for farmers very, very tight, against a lot of odds. And then my solution to this situation is, I see like if we don't use agrochemicals, if we have a lot of competition with the big corporate world, then we have to find our own brand, called the Bhutan brand, right? So grown in Bhutan, Bhutan brand, there's a huge movement happening. And with the use of technology, like, so why our farms are not sustainable right now, it's because of the economic sustainability. Farms are very less income, like you're saying. So for that as a solution, I'm looking for a technology now from anywhere in the world, right? I'm looking for that, connected to people. So I'm looking for a small, smart grow houses.
Yeah.
Grow houses where like a greenhouse with solid structure where we can grow high value, low volume crops.
High value.
Low volume crops. So it has a less volume but has a high economic value.
Yeah.
Like mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Some mushroom which has a very high economic value, for instance. So for a small ordinary farmer to achieve economic sustainability, that's one of the most appropriate way of tackling this situation. Because let's say if an average family has 3-acre land, 1 hectare land, if they grow rice, they would only get maybe $1,000, $2,000 net profit maybe. But if they grow 10 decimal of land with mushroom, with a smart grow house using technology that can control light, temperature, humidity, and even the soil fertility management, then they can earn maybe 200 times more income from that small grow house growing high value mushroom than growing rice in the open field.
I think this is really cool because...
So use of technology.
Yes. So, because I really think we need those initiatives, because most people will not go back to living the traditional hard way, slow life, even though it has many values and great aspects, but young people tend to have other desires.
Yes.
So,
all options.
Yeah, and we like to have a nice living standard and some comfort and convenience. So how to merge the best from two worlds. So it's really cool to hear how you managed to do this and how you managed to have your entire country and government on your team on doing this.
Thank you. So going forward, I would like to use some of these technologies to augment our traditional livelihood and make it more trendy, make it more economically sustainable, and also technologically smart, so that we remain valid and proud of our ancestors' culture and tradition.
I think people who are more search to more the roots and more the natural way of living. Maybe that's just me because I'm into it and I meet many people who think like that. Maybe most people, they just prefer to have the burgers and the fast food and their stressful life. And I think as we grow a bit older, we also tend to ask those questions. Is it really worth it? It's all just stress and what does my life even mean? What do I want to leave behind? Like, I think we as humans, we have some basic fundamental human needs. And when we go too far away from serving those needs and get those needs covered basically, we will get into huge imbalance. So having those holistic ways of growing food, how we build relationships, the question is, do people want this?
I think there's a want, but I think we are not very aware, we are not educated enough how to attain them, you know. More and more I came to realize that everyone is seeking for truth, in the sense of they want to really know what's going on. They really want to know what something works for them. But there's so much less information about what people really need to know. There's so many information about the advertisement, the buying, the consumer, the politics, the negative hits about the internet, ChatGPT, but there's very less information about what humans need to live a happy life, how to live a simple life, So those informations are very much less, I think, accessible to people. Even parents, they only know how to raise their child to get a job. Then they never grow their kids to make them into a happy human being, So that divide between our collective inquiry and the collective search, there's a collective search, I believe there is a strong collective search which is guiding the entire humanity. That's why we still don't have total war as such, the major way, but there are many small wars, of course. But that's also because there's a inner search, collective search, which drives all human beings more towards positive side. I see it that way. But in everyday basis, we are living in a increasing entropy of our beliefs in the world not meeting, matching.
And because there are big corporations who have different interests, right? They have a different plot for us. They want maybe to control the food. They want to control your freedoms. And they have a lot of money. And people tend to go along because it's convenient with all the technology, it's convenient with all the food which is served easily. We don't have enough skills or knowledge or awareness about what food does to the body, which is a huge difference between Norway and Japan, where like more than 90% of the schools, they have put so much effort into learning the kids about health and how food is impacting your health.
Wow.
So they in Japan. So and they have even their own nutritionists at each school who's planning the meals for the entire year to ensure it's balanced and nutritious. The kids are part of learning how to grow food, how to harvest the food, how to prepare and to serve the food. So and they all get this really healthy food served in their classrooms every day. So they grow up with a totally different culture around food than we are in Norway, where many kids go to school, they have crackers, they have muffins, they have maybe some sugary drinks. So, and for me it's a bit surprising to see that so many are not aware of how damaging it is.
Oh, yeah.
So we are a bit misled by the commercial.
Yes.
We are misled to believe that a thing that doesn't look like food even more, it is healthy still. So, yeah, I do have a huge job in front of you. And
I have a long way to go, and I wish I can learn something from you or get your support in terms of networking, whatever. If you have any grants, finances, supports, I'm up for anything, Yeah.
So sharing the knowledge and sharing the word,
Yes.
I think is the most important. And maybe the main essence is to help people to ask those questions. What is important for me? What is life? And follow that answer.
Yeah.
And then go out there and contribute to something good in the world in any shape or form.
It's true.
So, yeah. So it's been really, really cool to have you here. And knowing that we have even birth at the same day.
Yeah.
I wish I were here in Bhutan for a few more days. We can have a party together.
Could have. Maybe you should decide to do that.
Yeah. Not so easy with Bhutan, but all the visa and taxes to stay here. If you have to come to India, we are going there next.
Oh.
So.
To celebrate it, but
yeah. So, but really, really cool to meet you. Get to know you a little bit.
Thank you.
And thanks for spending some time with me this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Having the opportunity to travel to this unique country and meet the amazing people and experience the culture firsthand has had a tremendous impact on me. And even with the Goss National Happiness focus for 50 years, Bhutan still have many challenges. However, the development has been great during these years, and by walking slowly and consciously, in addition to holding a steady focus on the factors that gives well-being of the people and sustainable development, I believe they are a great role model for other nations. Even organizations and leaders might find this approach relevant, and also maybe even as individuals, such holistic approach might give some value. And in a time where we face such tremendous, huge challenges in the world, both in the rich and the poor countries, I hope more leaders and politicians come together and unite for a more holistic approach. As Mr. Thakur Singh Powdyel says, we are all cohabitants of this planet, dependent on each other for survival and prosperity. We need a clear North Star to guide us in our development. Goss National Happiness is such a North Star. And I totally support that long-term development focus pays off, always. However, it might be difficult in a time where fast results are seen as more important. I hope this video has provided you some valuable learning and inspiration for you to be part of developing a better world.